I never thought I'd be sitting here telling this story. For years, I kept it locked away in a place so deep inside me that I convinced myself it didn't exist. But silence has a weight to it, you know? And eventually that weight becomes too heavy to carry alone. So here I am, ready to share something I've never told anyone in full. This is about my stepdad, Robert, and how our relationship went from absolute chaos to something I never imagined possible. I was 12 when my mom met Robert. She was a single mother working 2 jobs, exhausted all the time, and I could see the loneliness in her eyes even though she tried to hide it from me. When Robert came into the picture, everything changed. At first, I was relieved. Mom smiled more. She had someone to lean on. But for me, it felt like I was losing the only parent I had ever known. My biological father left when I was 3, and I barely remember him. It was always just me and Mom against the world, and suddenly there was this stranger in our home, sitting in what I considered my space, eating dinner at our table, laughing with my mom in a way that made me feel invisible. Robert tried, I'll give him that. He tried to talk to me, asked about school, offered to help with homework, but I wasn't having it. Every attempt he made felt like an invasion. I'd roll my eyes, give one-word answers, and retreat to my room as fast as I could. I built walls so high that even I couldn't see over them anymore. And then came the anger. Oh, the anger. I don't know when exactly it started, but it grew inside me like a wildfire. I blamed Robert for everything. If Mom was tired, it was his fault. If dinner was late, it was because of him. If I got a bad grade somehow in my twisted teenage logic, it was connected to him disrupting our lives. The screaming matches started when I was 14. I remember the first one vividly. Robert had asked me to clean my room, something Mom had asked me 100 times before without much reaction from me. But hearing it from him, it triggered something primal. I exploded. I told him he wasn't my father, that he had no right to tell me what to do, that I wished he would just leave. The look on his face, I can still see it. It wasn't anger. It was hurt. Deep, genuine hurt. But I didn't care. I wanted him to hurt. I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the pain I felt at having my life disrupted. Mom tried to mediate, but it only made things worse. I felt like she was choosing him over me. Every time she defended him or asked me to be more understanding, it felt like betrayal. So I doubled down. I became meaner, more calculated in my words. I knew exactly what to say to push his buttons, and I used that knowledge like a weapon. I'd bring up how he wasn't my real dad, how he was just some guy who happened to be around, how our family was fine before he showed up. Each word was a dagger, and I threw them with precision. But here's what I didn't see at the time. Robert never left. Despite everything I threw at him, all the venom and hatred, he stayed. He didn't fight back with the same intensity. Sure, we had screaming matches where both of us said things we regretted, but he never walked away. He never gave up on me, even when I gave him every reason to. At 16, I started dating this guy from school. Let's call him Jake. Jake was trouble. The kind of trouble that looks exciting when you're a teenager looking for any excuse to rebel. Robert saw right through him. He told me Jake wasn't good for me, that he could see the red flags from a mile away. Of course, I didn't listen. I accused Robert of being controlling, of trying to ruin my life. We had one of our worst fights that night. I told him I hated him, that I couldn't wait to turn 18 and leave. Mom cried. Robert just stood there, jaw clenched, and said, "I'm just trying to protect you." 3 months later, Jake broke my heart in the worst way possible. He cheated on me with my best friend, and I found out through a text message that wasn't meant for me. I was devastated. I felt stupid, humiliated, and so incredibly alone. I locked myself in my room for 2 days, refusing to come out, refusing to eat. On the 3rd day, there was a knock on my door. It was Robert. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't lecture me. He just sat outside my door and talked. He told me about his first heartbreak, about how he thought the world was ending, about how he got through it. He said I was stronger than I knew, that this pain wouldn't last forever. even though it felt like it would. And then he said something that broke through my defenses. He said, "I know you don't think of me as your dad, and that's okay. But I need you to know that I think of you as my daughter, and I'm here whenever you're ready." I didn't open the door that day, but something shifted inside me. For the first time, I saw Robert not as the enemy, not as the intruder, but as someone who genuinely cared. It scared me. It's easier to hate someone than to admit you might have been wrong about them all along. The silences that followed were different from before. They weren't filled with hostility, but with a strange kind of awareness. We'd pass each other in the hallway, and there was this unspoken acknowledgement that something had changed, but neither of us knew how to address it. Senior year came, and with it, all the stress of college applications, SATs, and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. I was overwhelmed, drowning in deadlines and expectations. One night, I was having a breakdown over my college essay. I had written and deleted it probably 15 times, and nothing felt right. I was crying at the kitchen table at 2 a.m. when Robert came downstairs. He made tea, sat down across from me, and asked if he could read what I had. I was too exhausted to argue. He read it carefully, then looked at me and said, "You're trying to write what you think they want to hear. Write what's true. Write your story." We stayed up until 4 a.m, him asking me questions, helping me unpack my thoughts, encouraging me to be vulnerable on the page. That essay got me into my dream school. Graduation day was emotional for everyone, but I noticed Robert was particularly quiet. During the ceremony, when they called my name, I saw him in the crowd, tears streaming down his face, clapping harder than anyone else. It hit me then, really hit me. How much he had invested in me, how much he cared, despite everything I had put him through. At the graduation party, he gave me a gift. It was a journal with an inscription inside. "To the strongest, most resilient person I know, I'm proud to be part of your journey. Love, Robert." I had to excuse myself to the bathroom because I couldn't stop crying. College created physical distance between us, which, ironically, brought us closer emotionally. Without the daily friction, I could see our relationship more clearly. I started calling home more, and Robert and I would actually talk. Real conversations about life, about my classes, about his work. He'd tell me stories about his own college days, about mistakes he made, lessons he learned. I started to see him as a person, not just as the man who married my mom. I began to understand that he had his own fears, his own insecurities, his own journey. But the real turning point came during my sophomore year. Mom got sick. It wasn't life-threatening, but she needed surgery and a long recovery period. I came home to help, and it was just Robert and me taking care of her. We fell into a rhythm, cooking together, managing her medications, keeping her spirits up. One night, after Mom had gone to sleep, Robert and I were cleaning the kitchen, and he said, "Thank you for being here. Your mom needs you, and honestly, so do I." I stopped what I was doing and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who had endured years of my cruelty, who had stayed when he had every reason to leave, who loved my mom so completely and who, despite everything, had somehow found space in his heart to love me too. I said, "Robert, I need to apologize." He started to protest, but I stopped him. I told him I was sorry for every cruel word, every door slammed, every moment I made him feel unwelcome in his own home. I told him I was sorry for the years I wasted pushing away someone who only ever wanted to care for me. I told him I was sorry it took me so long to see what was right in front of me. By the time I finished, we were both crying. He hugged me, really hugged me, and said, "You don't have to apologize. You were a kid dealing with a lot. I never took it personally. Well, I tried not to." We both laughed through our tears. Then he said, "I want you to know, being your stepdad has been one of the greatest privileges of my life, even during the hard times, especially during the hard times." That night changed everything. The walls I had spent years building came crashing down, and in their place was something I never expected, a real, genuine relationship. I started calling him Dad, not because I felt obligated, but because that's what he had been all along, even when I refused to see it. He had shown up, day after day, year after year, with patience and love, waiting for me to be ready. Now at 25, I can look back and see the journey clearly. The screams were necessary, in a way. They were me, processing grief and fear and change in the only way I knew how. And the silences that followed were the space I needed to grow, to mature, to see beyond my own pain. Robert taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about choice. It's about showing up, especially when it's hard. It's about loving someone even when they make it nearly impossible. Forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's a process, a series of small choices to let go of resentment and open yourself up to connection. For years, I thought I was punishing Robert with my anger, but I was really only punishing myself. I was denying myself the love and support of someone who genuinely cared about my well-being. When I finally let that go, when I finally forgave not just him, but myself, for all the wasted time, my life became infinitely richer. Today, Robert walks me through my biggest decisions. He's the first person I call when something good happens, and the first person I turn to when I'm struggling. He's teaching me how to change the oil in my car, how to negotiate a salary, how to be brave when I'm scared. He tells me he's proud of me, and I believe him. More importantly, I tell him I'm grateful for him, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. If you're in a situation like I was, if you're fighting against a step-parent or struggling with a blended family, I want you to know something. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Your emotions are valid. The anger, the resentment, the fear of being replaced. It's all real, and it all matters. But I also want you to consider the possibility that there might be someone in your life who's trying, really trying, to love you. Maybe they don't do it perfectly. Maybe they say the wrong things sometimes. But if they're showing up, if they're staying, if they're fighting for a relationship with you, that means something. You don't have to let go of your walls all at once. I certainly didn't. But maybe, just maybe, you could lower them inch by inch. Maybe you could have one real conversation. Maybe you could let yourself see them as a whole person with their own story, their own wounds, their own capacity for love. I'm not saying you have to call them mom or dad if that doesn't feel right. I'm not saying you have to forget whatever pain brought you to this point. But I am saying that holding on to anger is exhausting, and forgiveness, real forgiveness, is one of the most liberating things you'll ever experience. My relationship with my dad, with Robert, is one of the most important relationships in my life now. And I almost missed it. I almost let pride and stubbornness rob me of something beautiful. Don't make the same mistake I did. Life is too short, and the people who love us are too precious. Between the screams and the silences, there's a path forward. There's healing, there's connection, there's love. You just have to be brave enough to take that first step. And trust me, it's worth it. It's so, so worth it.